Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series, where each day I interview an amazing Black woman for Black History Month. And today I am thrilled to have Goddess Rivera, who is an inclusive marketing executive and one of the best people on the planet, on the podcast today. We're going to jump right into it because she has such an amazing story. Hey, Goddess.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Likewise, so excited to have you on the podcast finally. It's only taken us 5 years. so,
I know. It only took us 5 damn years, Lordy.
but
We
worth
here
the
though. We
wait.
here.
Entirely. So, first question, always the same. Answer is always amazing. Short would be great. So, Goddess, what was your first job?
Oh my gosh. I was not expecting this. Wow, you're taking me back to 10th grade. My first job was a saleswoman, young woman at Aerosol's shoe store in the mall, which is wild. I haven't thought about that in literally 25, 30 years, feels like. But yes, that was my first. So really sales was my first job. Isn't
So,
that crazy?
yeah, well, I think the thing I always say is that folks, whenever people pick the job that they mention, it always correlates in some way, shape, or form to what they do now. So dealing with people, not dealing with
Yep.
people. So it makes sense. You're still in the people business. So
Yes.
obviously that was your first interaction with human beings, where you actually got
hmm
paid. You've had quite the career journey. I would love for you to share it, how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, like it's so funny thing about like being that 15-year-old girl. I've always known a couple things about myself. One is that I wanted to ensure that the story of my community started as a young person of my family, of people who I knew and loved and got to know throughout my life, specifically in my community. And my family's originally from the South and South Carolina, Macon, Georgia. Shout out to the South, and then we made our way up to the Bronx, New York, where I grew up mostly. And the richness of the stories in just my own community were always really important to me. And I knew I wanted to tell those stories. So I thought at first I'd be like an author, right? That was like my goal as a kid. Mommy, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write stories. As I got older, I realized that I wanted to be able to make sure that the things that were most important to the community were being paid attention to. So I thought journalism was kind of the way I would go. And that was what I majored in. And when I got into the workforce, and journalism was kind of in the mid 2000s, going through its own transformation with tech and what it meant to be digital versus, not, physical, and they were kind of trying to figure out where they were. So I kind of just took what I thought would be a pit stop in marketing. And there was a lot of writing skills that were needed in marketing when I started. This is back in the day. So it was a lot about really understanding sort of comms, understanding publicity, and then sort of getting into like online reputation management, which made its way into social media. And that was sort of how I started to see that there was a place for amplifying the stories of communities through sort of this new digital medium, and that the fact that the private sector, like brands, had the resources and the opportunities to sort of usher in some of these stories and represent different communities in a way that I hadn't thought about as a kid, but realized was something that could be done now. So that was sort of where I started to think about my career journey, and I really sort of switched my path to really dig into social media and later full integrated channel strategy, especially focusing on digital, because I realized you can show up where people are, whether they're on an app, or they're watching a TV show, or they're even reading a magazine or looking at a billboard. You can be consistently reinforcing a message, and that message could be one of equity, one of inclusivity, even if it's not a heavy subject matter. Just who is represented, who you see in those advertisements, who you see their stories being told through different types of creative. So that's sort of what led my career in strategy. I was able to work at some amazing agencies. One we have in common.
I think
Shout out
so.
to VMLY&R Familia Forever. And when I was there, I also was able to really dig into strategic, really audience strategy, right? That's where I really love to really dig into what really pushes human behavior. And again, going back to that little girl, I was like, I want to know what is important to the consumer behavior and the audience and community that are like the ones I come from. I'm a Black American woman. I understood that community, and there's so many other communities like that have been sort of counted out, historically excluded, and really marginalized by many different factors in society. So I made a choice to really focus specifically on that. I had a chance to then build a brand new role at Twitter due to focusing on kind of Black Twitter as a proxy sort of thesis I had around the importance of understanding these communities, and not just on face value, but the full layers of them, the complexities, the nuances, the cultural layers, the history. And I was able to build that role into really 4 years at Twitter, where I built a brand new organization where we focus specifically on centering on those communities. And that's sort of been my story. And I'm continuing my work now as an inclusive marketing executive, continuing to focus on those. Groups like Black folks, Latinx, Hispanic, LGBTQ plus, the disability community, Native, Indigenous, and all the intersections therein. So that's my very long-winded story, people, of how I got to where I am.
I love how you're leaving out the fact that like you literally helped create Black Twitter Voices and some of the most iconic campaigns. Like if you tweet it,
Oh my God.
like but I think the thing that I always just so love and so admire is how that you shine the light globally on the Black and Brown experience. 'Cause I think sometimes
Mm,
people so assume, oh, well, you're Black, you're all the same. Like, no, we are not.
right.
Like, you have
Right.
two
At
brothers on
all.
this podcast, couldn't be more different. Have a lot of things in
Yeah,
common, but also
very
a lot of
true.
things are different. And
Right.
that was the nuance behind that, I thought was always so spectacular.
Thank you so much for that. I always, it always feels interesting to even like claim any type of recognition around a lot of that work. A lot of what I say is that I don't market to diverse audiences. I market with them. And to me, I felt very honored and grateful that I had an opportunity to build a program like Twitter Voices that was really just a connection point and a consistent um, communication and two-way relationship with these voices who were specifically on Twitter, and really the best of Twitter, who were from marginalized communities and really helped us become better, from our brand story to how we should be thinking about evolving the product. Um, and that to me feels like an honor, right? It feels like an honor to have been able to partner with those groups and try to evolve a product, try to evolve policy, try to evolve the and integrate those stories into the brand story. So that, is what I take with me in my career now, is how do we market with these communities, not just to. So I think it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a different shift, right, than the way we traditionally think about audiences. But to me, it's the only way to build trust and equity with these groups.
I love that you said that because I feel like we have to say this every single day with a lot of our clients. It's with, not to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the big difference where, as we try and help brands figure out how to work and embrace different cultures, it's not, well, how do I talk to a Black and Brown audience? How do I talk to an LGBTQIA audience? How do I talk to a disability audience? It's like, no, you're having a conversation with us.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
include the conversation at the beginning. Don't wait till the end when you now, oh no, I have to talk to you guys.
Right. Right.
Versus
Don't wait till you insult somebody to talk to them. Like, that doesn't make any
like,
That's just
oops.
weird behavior. Like, who would do that?
Yeah, and I think sometimes folks, because obviously we're in similar universes where it's like you're trying to explain to them that this is a conversation, and it can sometimes it can be very easy, sometimes it can be very challenging, but it's a
Yeah,
conversation. So there's
it's a
a give and a
conversation.
take and a listening that has to happen. And oftentimes I think it's like folks look at lots of data like, oh, Gen Z is doing all this stuff, so Gen Z is what people need to talk to. And
Yeah,
it's
I, I
you're like,
can't agree
don't you not?
more. You're like, what? Always use this example, right? When people talk about, data, there's a couple different things that come to mind. One is, the first thing is, if you're not in synthesizing and interpreting that data with people from that community, you have no idea what you're looking at, right? You have no idea what you're missing. And I think that's really important. And I always use the analogy about like my husband, right? We've been married 14 years, love him to death. But if you like looked at his resume, it wouldn't tell you why I love him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a bunch of data points about him that are all true, but it has nothing to do of why we've been together, for 17 years in total and married 14 and why it works, right? So I think that people should understand that data in the way they think about specifically diverse audiences who have had so many systematic sort of oppositions, that have caused their experiences and how they feel and what moves them and what makes them nervous. And I think a lot about things like history and current events, things like language, all of those things are so important to really understanding these groups. So if you're not sort of deep in it and making sure that you have deep connections and partnerships with people from these communities, you're really never going to know. And a lot of times that not knowing that, sort of ignorance is what it helps us not feel confident as marketers. And then you get the paralysis, right? Like nobody wants to do anything because they're afraid to do something wrong instead of saying, I understand my intentions. I know that I'm doing as much as I can to learn. Doesn't mean I'm done learning, but that helps me feel confident when I'm doing something to try and really connect authentically with a group. So it's not easy. I'm not trying to say it is. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that I think is worth the investment in and it's worth the courage.
It really, yeah, I think that's the key word there. It's courage. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to offend anybody. It's like, can you imagine what it is like to be a Black woman in business? You understand how much
Okay.
courage it takes for us on a daily basis, how we have to navigate that in a lot of different ways, both seen and unseen, where it's like, oh, well, do you want to be on this call? Can I be on this call?
Yes.
How do we escalate this? Like all those
So
different
true.
things that we have to do on a daily basis. And for us, it's like breathing. And all we're asking y'all to
Yes.
do is have a conversation.
That's it. Like it's all gonna be fine. Like, you know what I mean? It's I think about sometimes when I'm like, well, what do you think's gonna happen? And I remember being at Cannes last year and talking about this with during a workshop where we were talking about sort of the worst thing that could happen for brands that are afraid of things like cancellation and I was saying to them like, okay, well, what happens? The thing happened. People are whatever tweeting. There's articles, and then 3 days pass, and then what happens? And you know what I mean? And nobody's ever like, oh, we're out of business now, or everybody burned our stuff in the streets. Even if that happens, the brand continues on. Brands really often have the least to lose when it comes to this type of work, and it's the communities that they're speaking to that are the ones that are living with so many, a minefield of different types of pitfalls for these communities to try and face every day. They're the ones that have the courage. So it's like for us, we should absolutely be able to do whatever it takes to try and represent their experiences in an authentic way. And to be scared is I just can't accept that anymore. I don't think we have anything to be scared of. That we haven't seen any other brand come through just fine.
Yeah, no brand has burned to the ground. I
None,
know,
none. I don't
it's
know why
like,
they acting like they have. They really haven't.
they really have not burned it. Have you had some bad cultural faux pas? I mean, I think back to the Mountains of Dex when I did my culture board series and the cultural faux pas that folks did. They're still here. No,
They're still here, still here.
and it's okay. Y'all gonna be all right.
They gonna
So,
be all right.
you really will be. It's not, and I think it's just it is the courage, but it's also to listening to the folks who you work with and that you
Yep.
hire, your agencies that you hire, your client, your work colleagues that you hire. It's like we do know this, we do see this, and oftentimes when we're saying stuff, it's because we have a different view on the world that you're never gonna have. And it comes from a
So
place of
true.
that we're business folks. We are business people, but we live in the world that uses differently. And so our approaches are going to be much more nuanced and how we see the
Right.
world.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right. And I think, for those of us who come from marginalized communities, again, we were born understanding that we had to sort of have a parallel awareness, right? We had to understand how it was to live and be in our bodies and our communities, and how it was to live and be in this, sort of default in narrative, anything from professionalism to, how you should behave or whatever, what's accepted vernacular, all of that was like a default decided for us that we understood may or may not have been indicative of our own experiences, where you have people who have been only in that default sort of experience, and they have not had that muscle of having that sort of paralleled understanding that everybody's world is not like your own, right? Like we kind of came here understanding that because we had to for our own survival, and now it's really become, I always say, our superpower, and that's what I want to see more recognition around. And there is going to be a learning curve for people who've not had to flex that muscle as much before, but it's got to be done. It just has to be if we're going to get to equity.
Well, yeah, that is the path to equity. Is that becomes a muscle? It's just like you didn't know how to ride a bike when you were a kid, but now you know. And the
Now you
crazy
know, right?
part, but here's the crazy part about it. It can be 25 years later, you get on a bike and you pretty much figure it out relatively quickly because your body remembers. And that's the same thing. It's that like, even if you kind of go away and come back to it, you remember. It becomes a muscle that you all know, you always know how to use. And if you even think you've gotten older, like, oh yeah, I did this, did this, did this. All right, let's keep it moving. Versus, I never
Right,
try.
right, right. Exactly.
So obviously you've had an amazing career and you've
Thank
been
you.
able to be a lot of different places. What
I
do you think you
have.
tell 18-year-old goddess?
Oh my gosh. Woo! She was a wild girl. Let me think. Um, Man, God, you got me with that one. What would I tell her? One of the things I still am really proud of is at 18, I had that same level of sort of fearlessness. I always have been, I try to be, I don't know if everybody who knows me would say this, but I've always tried to be very self aware, where I don't think I know everything, right? I don't think that I have all the answers. I'm not saying that I'm the Messiah and I'm here to fix it all. But I always have felt this level of fearlessness about trying to make things better, whether that's through solutions that I come up with, whether it's from learning from other people and partnering with other people and bringing those people in, whether it's from helping other people. And so I would say, I would say, one, I'm proud of you for for leaning into that and not, dimming that light or that feeling, because it isn't always popular and in different circumstances. um I would also say too, to just trust yourself. I think back to some of the years where I felt a little unsure sometimes, or you have this idea in your mind that everybody at the top has it figured out. You're going to be found out and you don't know. I have realized that is not the truth, right? The higher up we get, the more we know that it's, you know, hopefully mostly smart people trying to figure out problems that haven't been solved before, right? And so I think that there's something beautiful in discovering that, and the fact that everybody is sort of figuring out the best path forward to make things better, right? That's what we like to hope most people's intentions are. And I think knowing that at 18, it takes some of that pressure off of what you think you're trying to aspire to, which is this weird warped version of like, oh, you're this age now, you've done these things, and now you've got it all figured out. And knowing that that's never going to happen, I think is just so much better. And you probably would waste a little less time on trying to get to that, and instead enjoy sort of the journey of being a part of building the acumen of whatever your problem solving or your approach to life is going to be. So proud of her. Hope she's proud of me. But I would just tell her, the journey is part of it. I was always racing to get to the thing I felt like the next thing I needed to accomplish. And so slowing down and enjoying it, I think, is important.
I love
Does that
that.
make sense?
That's some brilliant and fantastic advice because like you have to know that it'll be okay. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously, you're really busy. You have a lot to do. What in
I
the world do
do.
you do for your self-care?
Oh, man, you are getting me with some good ones today. Oh my gosh. I feel like my self-care is so boring. Um, this is crazy, but I know. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna tell y'all. So this is strange. Anybody that knows if you struggle with anxiety, as I definitely have since I was a child, and I try to figure out what are the things that keep me calm. Routine is one of those things. And I've realized that over the years, it makes me feel in control, which is important. So one of the things that I like doing, I am a true crime mystery thriller girl. Okay. I love it. I'll be thinking I'm solving these crimes. I know it's a little bit controversial, and I definitely understand the empathy and just humanity that goes into this. But I do have, podcasts that I listen to, and I actually like, there's a lot of great podcasts um about Black women or women of color who are often overlooked when it comes to crime or going missing. And I'd love to listen to those and to see if there's anything I've heard or I've seen, or to even just send some prayers out to those families, because I feel like they often are overlooked. I think one of the podcasts I listened to is Brown Girl Gone. I have to find it. But I like to do that sort of while I cook dinner, while I'm just putting my makeup on, and that sort of just gives me a story that I can empathize with, that I can, understand what a family's going through. And of course, I like my sort of fictional thrillers too. But I'm a big Audible girl. I'm a big podcast girl, and that is something that sort of calms me down. And then my husband and we are big TV folks. We have our shows.
What are
So
your
we like to do
shows?
our, yeah. Ooh, I have all of them. Whiskey and wine is our like, drinks of choice, and we watch all our shows. We love us some 911 on Fox. We like a lot of the new shows. We just watched Bel Air, season 2, episode 1 last night. Shout out to them; they're doing a great
Oh,
job.
I
And
haven't
some
had a chance
really,
to watch it yet, but I love season one, so I'm
yeah,
psyched for season two.
Bel Air was great. Yeah, and it was great to see them do such a great job with bringing back such a beloved show in a really different way, but in a way that feels true still to sort of the essence of what it was. And then just a lot of the new shows are really going there. There's shows like Kindred was really interesting on Hulu. I love that one.
Hmm.
And I love shows that just make you think, that feel fresh and different. Reasonable Doubt is also great on Hulu as well, where we're
Love
seeing
that.
yes, powerhouse Black woman executive. We love that
Yeah.
representation.
And them eyes, Michael
um
Ealy.
Okay, I know. I was like, oh my gosh, can anybody even concentrate on what he's saying, Lord? But yes, yeah. So since that kind of stuff, I mean, it feels maybe like mundane, but those moments, I think, and of course, spending time with my daughter is always just amazing and fun. We have a great time together. She's awesome, so creative and amazing, and she's a great music lover. So I lost my dad actually 10 years ago next week. It's really tough because he was such a big part of who I am. And he was a big music lover. He was a drummer. So my daughter and I have our shared Spotify playlist, and she's 11 years old, but I can go through and say, okay, baby, like, who does it sound like produced this track? And she'll be like, Babyface. And I'm like, yes, that's my dad living on through us. So we really bond over music and entertainment. And I'm really lucky to have my family and an amazing group of friends, and that keep me grounded. Keep me grounded.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think you're grooming a future A&R executive.
Listen, she could spot a hit out of a whole album. Like, that might be her path for real.
I love absolutely love it. Oh my God. No, yeah, and it's so important. Obviously, I love Reasonable Doubt too. And but it is also really good to watch TV. Like, this is the thing I think people forget. Like, no, it is totally fine to just veg out and watch TV as your self care.
Right.
Like, I love Housewives. I can watch Bravo till I'm blue in the
Yeah.
face. Uh, but like
I
also I
feel like
love The
some people
Equalizer.
do though.
It's
Yes, shout out to Queen Latifah. Like, I mean, it's some good, like, Best Man, like final chapters. Like, I think that there's
an
just
Abbott
this.
Elementary. My God. Whew.
Abbott is I mean, and for someone like me, I'm a big fan of the mockumentary style. I was a huge fan of The Office. To have it like the Abbott combine all of those things with Black culture. My
People.
grandfather's from Germantown, so
Oh
Philly is all the
wow.
way up and through it. Like, it's just so dope to see the evolution of content. It goes back to sort of what I was saying before, is that when you give the space to people who have been excluded to tell these stories in certain ways, like that, the beauty that comes out of it is just phenomenal. And so, you would talk about Reasonable Doubt, which is, executive produced by Kerry Washington, another Bronxite. Shout out to Kerry. But it's just, that's the thing that I want, my career to sort of be, is standardizing the way that we center and focus on folks who are the representation, telling these stories, whether it be through a 30-second ad or, a 2 hour long documentary. How are we being able to make sure that people who have been excluded are able to have their imprint told in the world, and the way that it will shape and really ignite, the young folks or people who will go on into the future and do things. I think it's going to be just amazing. So I'm happy to just be a part of that, a small part of that, but a part of it.
Yeah, it's so true and so awesome. Yeah, the best thing about Abbott is that, oh wait, you actually take this different view, and the show is loved by everybody because it's not just a black show. I believe it won all
Right.
the Emmys, right?
Yes,
So,
all of them, all of them.
oh,
Okay, all of them.
uh, but this giving people the space to create and letting them and getting out of the way, having that conversation leads you to an amazing show like Abbott that just, I feel like every week it just gets better and better and better. This week's episode, I was like,
Every
oh my God.
Oh, I can't wait. It's the teacher retreat, right? Don't tell me.
Oh, you
I
haven't seen it?
cannot wait.
Oh my
No,
God.
I haven't. So I wait to watch. It's so funny. It's my daughter's like favorite show, so I wait to watch it with her. So it comes on kind of later. She's already asleep on Wednesdays, and now we watch it usually on Fridays. So I'm excited. And I
Oh
think
my
of back
gosh.
to, like, just seeing Miss Brunson's just glow up. I remember being a huge fan of hers as a content creator when she was at BuzzFeed,
BuzzFeed,
and
yeah.
yeah, and the idea of being a creator was, digital was still sort of new and everybody was figuring it out. And she would have these hilarious videos go viral, like Millie rocking on every block around Egypt and all of that. And to see just the way, again, when there's resources, when there's opportunity. Same thing with Issa Rae and what she's done with Insecure and the empire she's built with Rap Shit. Like, it's amazing to watch. And I just feel like there's not only those amazing women and others, but there's so many more folks like that we can continue to push up, to support. And I love it. It's the whole ecosystem, right? It's not just the shows or the product or the creations, it's the marketing, it's the representation of the ad, it's the whole ecosystem of the way that we can continue to advocate for this. So it's exciting.
It really is an amazing time for TV. Like, it's a beautiful time for TV. So
So
last
good.
question for you. Do you have a
Yes.
give and or an ask of the audience?
Oh, do I have a good ask of the audience? Oh my goodness. Wow, what do I want y'all to do? Hmm. You know, I do have an ask. Here's my ask. Um, One of the things that I really try and pride myself on, and I'm lucky and fortunate and grateful that I've been able to do this both personally and professionally, but it's something that I really challenged myself on, and it's helped me really elevate my work, but also elevate me as a person. And it's one of the reasons why I love Twitter, the platform, so much, even as just a strategist before I even worked there. It's because I want to challenge people to take a moment out of their day. Okay, if you can't do it every day, do at least something once a week to learn about a community or an experience that is completely unlike your own. I just think that it really helps elevate who you are as a person. It helps build empathy. It helps build knowledge and cultural fluency. And all of those things really push for a better connected world. It's very easy to take at face value the misrepresentations or even the outright lies sometimes that people can say or make up or ignorantly think about other groups or other experiences if you haven't had actually taken time and listened to people from that group. So, I don't have a physical disability, but I really try and take time to sift through places like Twitter, to read blogs, read magazines about people who do have that experience. What is it like? What is the language that they are comfortable with? What do they hate when people do that? What does ableism really mean? Same thing. I'm not a part of the LGBTQ plus community, but I'm absolutely an ally. And what are some of the experiences from that community that I could learn and understand better and continue to? So I challenge you all to take some time and do that. Whether you work in an industry where you can utilize that in your work, that's great. But even if you don't, I think that everybody can utilize this in some way in their personal and professional life. And it just really helps you grow as a person. So that's my challenge to you all. Find a way to learn something about someone or a community or an experience that is unlike your own at least once a week, and take that into the future. You'll be surprised at how much it really shapes you as a person.
That's wonderful. And such fantastic advice. And folks should just go out there,
Thank
go out there
you.
and learn, go make friends. Is what I always say. Go outside, touch some
Go back
grass.
outside. Go outside, y'all. We can go back outside a little bit. Go back outside now. A little
Just
bit.
go outside.
Still be safe. Go back outside.
Guys, wow. I mean, I said it has been worth the wait to get you on this podcast. I mean, we
Oh,
could keep
no
on
more
chatting
5 years
for
though.
But yes, no more 5 years. I'm sure we'll see each other sooner than that. But thank you
Yes.
so much for being part of the Reset Podcast. We'll put details in the show notes for folks to connect with you on the social medias, and we'll list out all your favorite shows too.
Oh
But
yes.
thank you so very much. It's been such a delight to have you on.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. This was like the absolute shining light in my day. I love this kind of fellowship and community. And thank you for doing this because it's really important that, again, our stories are told and that we're able to have, spaces like this to do it. So I'm really grateful.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And
All
that
right.
is our show.